everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today, and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Flynn. I'm hosting today once again. I'm very excited to be joined by Joy Chiang. Hello, Joy. How are you doing?
Hi.
Welcome to Adobe Live for the very first time.
Thank you. Exciting.
This is exciting. Yeah, we've been chatting about you coming on. I'm excited that the day is finally here. You're an artist from Melbourne.
Yes.
And yeah, as soon as I saw your work, like, it's very experimental. You're in lots of different spaces, like Web3 stuff. You've got this traditional artist background. A lot of your work output I'm seeing is digital. It's super, super cool. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Sure. My background is actually in town planning, so I work for local
Oh, I
government for
missed
about
that. Okay. Of course it
for
was. Of course it was.
yes. So I guess I was designing cities, and
Right.
then I went on maternity leave, and I don't know. I went on maternity leave thinking I'd paint some big paintings for my house, and throughout the process, because it was quite abstract and intuitive, I just like fell in love with the whole process, and I was like, I want to continue doing this. So I
Sure.
made a conscious decision after kids that I kind of put some time aside to pursue art, and I'm really glad I did, because I think it's given me the space to really find myself again after kids, because you almost just become mum full time, and then
Totally.
after that you're like, oh, I just need some time for myself, and I'm so glad I did, because now I get to do digital art. I get to create anything that I feel passionate or really inspired by, whenever I want to, which is fun.
That's awesome.
Mm.
I love that. Well, maybe we'll dig in more into the shift from town planning to
Yeah.
full-time artist. That's awesome. But yeah, great, fantastic. And maybe we can just have a look at some of your work before we get stuck in. We are going
Sure.
to do some cool stuff today. We're going to be doing some Firefly and Gen AI sort of stuff. I'll let Joy kind of
Yes.
talk a little bit more in detail about that. That is coming. We are live. If you have any questions for Joy or myself or any of the topics or anything, throw those questions in Behance, and we'd love to hear from you as well if you are watching live. Let's jump over to some of your work, check out some of that
Mm.
stuff. I'm sharing your screen now, and then we'll kind of get into the topic for today.
Cool. So I think I mentioned when I first started to paint, it was really physical artwork. So it was a lot of like fluid mediums. I loved playing with alcohol inks, and you can see in the middle here, I've got some, like, I incorporated a lot of Chinese inks. You can kind of see these giant brushes that I have,
Yeah,
because I really love the calligraphy marks it makes. And I think when you use mediums like Chinese ink and brushes, the it's really the movements that are really important, and you have to be really certain when you put down a stroke. There's no holding back in Chinese calligraphy. So
right.
whatever mark it is, that's kind of what it's going to be. And I think mixing that with new mediums like alcohol inks and fluid acrylics just kind of allowed me to experiment and just pretty much become a scientist and just do whatever I wanted. After I had my son, I decided to give digital art a go, because it was so hard for me to take out the canvases and the paints, because I love to paint like big size canvases.
Right.
And with dogs and everything, it was just too messy to do that in the house.
Yeah, two
And
kids,
I
three
gave
dogs
myself,
is a lot. We
yes,
were talking
that's
about before we went live.
yes. Yeah, so dog fur, kid handprints, everything.
Yeah,
I
crazy.
was really, I've always loved when people shared like 3D artworks. And I feel like being a town planner and having a bit of understanding in architecture and design, it was something I was just really intrigued by. And I was like, you know what? I am on maternity leave again. I'm going to learn how to do 3D modeling, and it might help me with my physical paintings. So I learned to use Blender, and I guess I can see in this artwork, it was like my first digital animation, and it was also the time when NFTs and things were kicking off. So it
Right.
was a really big learning experience for me, and through that, I also got to make like these. Let me show you these motion graphics. So this project was how I learned to animate and do different textures in 3D.
Yeah.
And then from there, I got to just kind of continue experimenting. That's when AI started becoming popular. And so when Firefly came out, I was like, oh my God, text to image, what is this? And I started exploring, and I realized how fun it was, but also the flexibility of kind of lying in bed, putting down my daughter, waiting for her to sleep, and just kind of creating these textures that I could then use in 3D, or whether I just kind of directly output and draw on top of and just layer and start
Mm.
making collages with. So it's kind of like I'm collecting all these different mediums to be able to then create something unique that's more personal to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I love that. I love that process. Well, that's fantastic. I think you have your Instagram there as well, and then we'll jump in.
Yes.
Want to make sure we have enough time for everything, but yeah, you've got your Instagram there as well. With some just amazing work, quite diverse as well, I will say.
Yeah, so this is more like physical paintings.
Oh, cool.
But I think one of the things that's consistent throughout any type of mediums, I love these like fluid mediums, like this flowy effects. I love florals, as you can see. Like it's just, I don't know, even if I try to get away from it, when I come back to whatever mediums, there's always these themes. Like I started making ceramics and I just default to like these like wavy
Oh,
shapes. And it's
right.
not on purpose. It just kind of comes to you. And I think it comes with like the volume of work that you produce. You just end up finding things that you're naturally drawn to. And for me, it's like these type of movement, flowy pieces that I
Like a
absolutely
natural
love.
style that kind of comes out.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
in the
so.
process.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. All right. Well, we could probably go through your work for the whole hour, but let's get let's get stuck into it.
Yes.
What did you have in mind for us today?
So
Oh,
I
that little
think
cute.
um, I really wanted to recreate this dragon artwork that you see here.
Yeah, awesome.
And I wanted to showcase how I did it and some of the thinking behind the reasoning and the ideas. And I think in the video I talked about how it's the first time I get to go back to Shanghai this year after COVID and with my kids. So I wanted to send like a little digital postcard to my family to wish them happy Chinese New Year. And I was like, oh, let's make this dragon with like this background of Shanghai in the background. And so I'm going to try and do it all with AI. Apart from the calligraphy that I use my iPad to draw out and animate,
Mm,
it was all really done in Photoshop and Firefly.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you do all the calligraphy yourself. Of course, the answer is yes after the intro. Um,
Well, I did the original writing, like the cleanup of it in fresco, but I didn't realize you could do animation in Photoshop. So I ended up just using my mouse to like trace all these different steps so it looked like it filled up the
oh, I
page.
love that. I love that.
That
Yeah.
took so long, and then it was like 2 seconds of animation. I was like, "Oh, I should have
Takes a long time
extended
to.
the frames." Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. Hi, chat
Okay.
as well. Alejandro saying the background pictures are really cute, Joy.
Thank you.
And the dandelion flower is incredible. And Alessandra actually asked, I've got to ask, what is your favorite medium and your least favorite medium? I
Ooh,
guess since
oh,
you
I
do so
haven't
much.
yeah, I do something. My favorite? I don't know, I feel like as you collect different mediums, it's like a different toolbox that you add, and you can, I guess, use bits of pieces that you've gained from each and apply it to another. And as random as it is, like since starting ceramics last year, it's really helped me understand like different forms in the 3D space a lot better. Even
Right.
though like I have a good eye for 3D things already because of my background, but it just kind of gives you that additional understanding of like the weight and all those different type of things. But my favorite at the moment is probably ceramics because it's a new thing that I'm learning and I'm learning to apply it. And the weird thing about it is like everything I learned previously, you can't apply it to ceramics because with artworks, I can keep chipping at it until it's ready.
Right.
Whereas with ceramics, it's really about letting go. Like you
Yeah.
can't hold on to whatever you made because the next step is just going to die and crack and break, and so you just really have to let go, which I think really helped me with some of my digital artworks. Like I just can't get specific parts of it right, so
Yeah.
I guess I'll just leave it, so it's that mentality that comes with it. Least favorite? Oh, I don't have a least favorite.
You don't
I
have to
feel
have
like
a
I
least
like sort
favorite.
of
Yeah.
uh, I love the output of 3D animation and like 3D modeling,
Mhm.
but it's probably the most tedious. And
Right.
like it's like the more you know, the less you know, because the more like I think I've watched maybe 50 tutorials, and the more I get into the tutorial to like the nuances of like animation, texturing, and the more I watch, I'm like I don't know anything, and it feels like you're back at step one. So that's probably the least favorite, but it's also the biggest like growth that you can
Yeah.
have because you see the first animation that you made versus the ones now with like, more realistic feel. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Awesome.
Mm,
All right, then. That's great. Great question. Thanks, Alessandra. And thanks for the answer.
thank you. Cool. Actually, before we jump into Photoshop, I might share how I got to deciding that I want to use this artwork as a base
Cool.
for my dragon. Let me share. So, um, on my Instagram, end of last year, around November, when a lot of people do October for Inktober, I did like an AI version of it. I didn't have time to create like an ink drawing every day. So I was like, I'm going to just use the prompts. I think um, I did Peachtober and I used the same prompts but created AI artworks. And I think it was a really great way for me to really explore things I normally wouldn't make. And one of the surprising things was I created this little fuzzy character that I had on my Instagram page
Oh, this
before.
little guy.
This guy, yeah, and I absolutely loved him. Like a lot of people loved it, and my kids loved it. And I was like, oh my god, this is such cute character play that I wouldn't have created otherwise without going out of my comfort zone because
Right.
the prompt was just eye. And I was like, let's make a cute character with lots of different eyes. So this little alien thing popped up, and then this one was grub, which kind of this is the prompt that I used to then create the eye one because I really loved how it turned out with like the fuzzy fur and the little antennas and the wings. They were just so cute. And I was like, oh, maybe I can make a dragon like using something similar, which is how I got to this stage. But
Nice.
the more I looked at it, the more I was like, doesn't look like a Chinese dragon. Like if I sent this to my family in China, they'll be like, what is this? Like, it's
You've been in
like
Australia too long. Like,
yeah,
what's going
they're
on?
like has the Chinese defaulted back to like
Yeah.
what is this thing? But it was very cute nonetheless. So I was like, hey, maybe let's skip from this to something different. So I played around with the style reference. So in Firefly, the really cool thing is you can put in a style reference already in the system, which I think there's like at least 20, 30 that I play with all the time just to see what differences it'll give me.
Yeah.
And this one was like the ink one. And I was like, oh, this one looks really cool. And I thought about using something like this and building it and creating like a larger collage, but I just feel like the tones were limited because I love my color, I love my flow. So I was like, maybe I'll put this in the back of my mind, maybe for a future thing, or I could just use some of the parts of it. Like I love the painterly clouds and I love like the blend and the gradient. So as I'm exporting all of these different trial and error exports, I'm also deciding what I like to keep and what I want to continue. So within the prompts, I'm also playing with the words very differently. So I think at the start it was like, of a cute dragon with little wings.
Right.
And then it was, I tried Chinese dragon with like claws to give me the silhouette of arms and claws and wings because
Right.
I think it started to look more serpenty. And I was like, oh, maybe like, the paper cut type of design, the 3D elements, because in the style reference there's something similar. And I just wanted to kind of get, I think the style reference actually picks up a lot of what character it has originally in the image. So the song was like very monotone. I just wanted to see like what type of gradients I could get and what type of depth of field potentially give me some composition ideas. And then from then I was like, oh, I actually really like the mix of the city versus the dragon, how it kind of intertwine. And I was like, since I'm from Shanghai, I need to have the Pearl Tower. So I kind of physically typed that in to give me the skyscrapers. And then I was like, let's play with, and I quite like the wings. So I kind of tried like illustration, like sky and body, and I was like, this is more landscape. And this is one of my favorite style references. It's kind of, I think, one of the popular ones. But if you can't really tell in the small image, but in the details, it's got like knit, like a woolly jumper or something on the floor, and that kind of almost gives you like this crochet look.
Yeah.
And the funny is I actually really love when AI gives you unexpected outputs. Like there's like a kid's face here.
Yeah,
Like,
so I discovered that kid's face because I used that for the artwork.
yeah, I was like, oh, they chose it.
stream,
I didn't even notice.
and I was trying to crop it in, and I was like, "Where's that face coming from?"
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I remember when I first started using AI, like it was really hard for the generative AI to figure out like people and hands and fingers.
Sure.
So I
Yep.
kept a lot of AI generated images that had like 2 arms and 6 fingers, because it's evolving so quickly that you're never going to get
That'll
these
be a
type of
thing,
exports
yeah, of
again.
the past. It'll be like,
Yeah, so
remember
it's like
when?
really
It's almost like that now.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like a time capsule of some of my old exports, and I wish I saved some more, because some of them were like really funny,
Yep.
but some of them were really magical at the same time. Like when I first started playing with the different prompts, like the coolest thing about using AI as a medium and as a tool for your art is really thinking about not just being descriptive in what you want the output to be. So I think when you first start using AI, don't think of what you need it to look like. Just kind of keep your mind open and put in prompts like music lyrics, or your favorite poem, like a type of feeling that you want to evoke. I use like romantic feeling, or something like anything that you will be hard to convey if you're physically drawing. So don't think of it like someone, like you're talking to an artist, draw this for me, and tell them exactly what it is. Give it things that makes use of the AI that we can't really think of. So I love playing with like I think I've put in stories before just to see what it'll give me. And then some of these things will then trigger other ideas that you might have. And then you start picking out things you like that you don't like, and then you can add it to your future prompts.
Oh, that's
And that's
cool. I like
lots
that.
of nuances in some of the different wording. So I really love this. And then this could almost be like, a story character, like, for illustration, story generation. But I thought for my purposes, I kind of just wanted like a traditional Chinese dragon to celebrate Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
So then I went back to basics, and I was like, dragon flying in the sky. Just to see
Right.
what the most basic prompts will be. And I always start with this. Like if I'm creating a flower, I just want to see what the default flower that AI will generate, so I know what it's just going to automatically lean towards. So if I put a flower, sometimes it might default to like a rose. I was like, okay, that means if I do want roses, I can just use flower. If I want it to be specific lilies, or water lilies, or any type of different flower, then you have to physically tell it what size, the volume, and then kind of give it more description, so you know how to play with the inputs to get the outputs that you like. So from this
Nice.
one, I then was like, oh, let's try. This one is wrong. I just kind of clicked wrong. I changed from the style from art to photo, and you can see the difference between this and that straight away.
Yeah.
Like this one looks a lot more realistic. It's kind of really flying in the sky, and I was like, oh, I thought this is much cooler than this one, because this one almost looks like illustration, which is not what I'm after. So this kind of gave me the right idea. So I'm going to be using the photo as a style. And then from there, I was like, oh, I wonder what the difference will be if I start playing with like the different effects in Firefly. And bioluminescence kind of gives you that glowy. And I kind of did, like dragon in some sort of cloud setting, to be exact.
Is that what
Because
you
I
typed?
think I
Some
wrote,
sort of
that's
cloud
exactly what I
setting?
typed. Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's cool.
In the style of photorealistic painting, intricate ceiling designs, because I was thinking like something very detailed.
Right.
I think I. So for every screenshot and every image that you see that I'm sharing, there would have been like 30 to 50 attempts to
Right.
get to this.
Yeah.
So I think when people first use Firefly, they see some of these really crazy, really beautiful images. They'll do the dragonfly in the sky, get the first one, and feel really disheartened and be like, oh, mine doesn't look like realistic. Mine doesn't look like that. I
Right.
think it really comes down to playing. So don't think that you're going to get this, these really cool styles straight away, because it takes time, just like any other medium. And like it takes time to play and explore and just have fun with. So I think to get this one, I wanted some like these Chinese clouds. Like a lot of the Chinese like illustrations have like the curly wavy clouds. And when I typed in clouds, it kind of gave me like fogginess, or like one or two clouds. So which is why I got in some sort of cloud setting. And that, I think it's the setting that kind of gave it the volume of clouds to
Yeah.
get this
Isn't that
prompt.
interesting?
And I was like, yeah, so I was like, oh, this is kind of what I'm feeling, but I kind of want to bring in the city and the building element to kind of blend some sort of realism to it. And I was like, oh, but I like flowers too, so let's add some flowers and see what that will look like. And I was like, oh, this is really pretty. Even this would have been, really nice to use because it's the year of the wood dragon. As I can make it more like earthy tones, post edit, but I was like, oh, let's keep playing and see what happens. And then I started adding in like the bund, which is like the cityscape that most people associate Shanghai with, which is opposite of the Pearl Tower in China. It's like got the really famous European cities. So I was like, let's put that in just to see what we start getting. And I think this one didn't have the photo style, so it's kind of gone back to that drawing look. But I really liked the colors and the way it's coming back. So then, like a bit more tweaking, I think this one had the photo setting, so all of a sudden it's changed again.
Yeah.
And I think with this one, I was like, oh, maybe I should do like a phoenix even. So this is like a phoenix cross with dragon because I asked for it to be, with wings and claws and things. And I was like, I kind of looks too much like a bird. So I was like, let's go back and keep playing. So these are some of the, really cool exports I just thought was really amazing. And a lot of the images I share are actually pretty much all of the exports I share on my Instagram are actually just direct exports. I don't do much post editing unless I'm creating it for like a
Right.
artwork or something that I'm going to use in one of my animations or one of my 3D motion graphic designs or some like a posters type of thing. So I think even if you look at it, some of the claws won't look right. So these are, I think I just share it because I just thought they look great.
Yep.
As you can see at the bottom, look how many
There's a lot,
effects.
yeah. And I noticed that
Yeah.
how long the prompting is getting as well.
Mm,
Not to derail or anything, James Barnard in the chat, friend of Adobe Live. James told me before that you guys sat next to each other at Adobe Max.
Yes.
So
And then we related on like funny kid stories.
Oh yeah, you've met another parent. That's all you talk about.
Yeah, it's like, yes.
Well, hello, James, and James says hi
Hi,
to you
James.
as well.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining in. And then from there, I cut off the prompt. But before this, I was.
I like that one on the left. It's kind of.
Yeah, so I'll show you where I got this from. It was from my Instagram. Like I started playing with like a lot of the fluid movements. I think it was from this type of like animation that I was like, oh, I really love that. I wonder if I can apply it to the dragon because I was just playing around with like these sorts of like wavy motions and these type of effects. And I was like, oh, if I put a dragon in front of this, that'll look nice.
Yeah.
So I think I ended up using something similar, which had like fabric or material, something floating with the dragon prompts that I was working on. And I started getting these really cool designs and I was like, this is amazing. And then I think I kept tweaking the dragon to make it more prominent compared to like the materials or the fog, all those type of things. And then I started getting these really cool ones. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
I got to play around with material prompts, I think.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then, and I think I specified the colors I wanted, like magenta, oranges, to give me this color scheme that I love. And then some of them was really surprising. Like this one had a dragon prompt. There's no dragon in there. But I think these ones I added like cherry blossoms to give me some floral elements because I was like, oh yeah, wood dragon. But like some of these are just so cool. Like I thought about using this one, but I think this is the first one that I got, which was very similar to that, the one on my Instagram with just the material floating. So, but with the dragon head. And I was like, oh, this is heading in the right direction. Like these were the ones I love. Then I was like, this one probably had the most detailed face that I really liked, which is how I ended up on this. So we're here. we can finally move into Photoshop.
All right, that's great. I love hearing the prompt game stuff though. That's like super important. And you're right. I think sometimes you can get stuck in, and we've done it many times on the stream as well. I sort of get stuck in, just not quite get there. I think you do, as you said, have to spend quite a lot of time to really finesse it and learning.
I think also when you start prompting, again, like I mentioned before, don't go in with the expected image in mind.
Right.
And if it's not going towards where you want it to go, just kind of see where it will take you. Like for this one, I tried to do the legs and the wings, but it kept going back to the flying phoenix looking thing. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to get like a body with this head. Just like out of the hundreds of prompts that I got, like none of them were coming out with the right body versus the head. So like I'll just do it in Photoshop, and that's what Photoshop is so great at. And also I couldn't get this type of dragon, like a dragon that I liked with a background that I liked, which is why I ended up adding like a second Firefly export of like a Shanghai city that I ended up making. And I use similar, I try to get like a sky match in terms of the time of day. So the clouds don't look too different. Like
Yeah.
one is like morning, one is at night. So that way I know straight away that they will blend nicely together. So for this instance, I'm like, well, I'll put the dragon up here so I can make the body long and flow down. So I think the cool thing is in Photoshop, you can start, playing around with the arrangements to see where you want the generative expand to happen. And then I'd like chop in the city depending on the scale that I want. I was like, I kind of want the dragon to be in the front, the city in the background, so that it's kind of coming at it. And then I pretty much selected the edges and then just blend, and then I was like, oh, this looks cool. And then you just like pick the type of clouds you want, but thinking about what you want to add further later on, which one might work better is kind of the thinking behind some of this.
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
There was actually a question before. Alessandra asked a little bit ago, I was just waiting for a good spot for it, but what's something from your culture that you appreciate and brings you joy, no pun intended, integrated into your art making?
I think like a lot of the motifs that I end up using, like the waves and the fluidity, regardless of the mediums, whether it's my abstract paintings, I can kind of see, like I love using the brush strokes, and I think that's something I learned a bit of Chinese ink painting when I was on maternity leave the first time round with a wonderful teacher called Echo Wu. She's based in Melbourne, and like just one term of her class really gave me a better appreciation of like the Chinese ink paintings, and like what's important to leave out of it is just as important as what you put into it. So kind of that negative space, all of those things. And I think in terms of my culture, like that appreciation for texture in the brush strokes and the differences in the paintbrushes really help me think about the choices I'm making is very intentional, even if it's to do a little or something a little bit of, or a little or something more prominent. I think really thinking about that type of balance has helped me with the artworks. But I think also naturally the aesthetics that I like are probably driven by my upbringing, because I lived in Shanghai until I was about 7 before I came to Australia. So a lot of the things that I like and the culture stuff, I guess I got to do a bit of both, like of growing up in China and in Australia. So kind of combining that is something I really enjoy.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's great. Great question and answer. Thanks. So yeah, blending these images together in Photoshop. Did you just kind of have the dragon first and then you're thinking, okay, I need to find a background and doing it kind of organically, or do you kind of get all the images and then put it in and make it work?
I think if I got the dragon to, like if I got a dragon with a long body that I wanted in this type of, you know what I wish Firefly could do?
Oh yeah.
Can you put in a word
yes,
for me?
Totally. Yeah.
To have because I do a lot of the posts for my Instagram, but the portrait size is always just 3:4 ratio, where I really want it to be 16:9.
Oh,
so
I see.
You can do like the widescreen.
Widescreen, yeah, that doesn't solve it.
Do it, but you can't do it for.
You want extra
portrait.
vertical length?
Yeah. I
see.
So then I have to go into Photoshop to generative expand, which adds another step.
It would be smart to have them perfect ratios for social, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
I can't remember if I put it in my suggestion box once, maybe.
Yeah. There is functionality in there to give feedback, because like I think it's still technically in beta. So
probably sick of me going.
But hey, I'll keep it up here if I'm ever talking to the Firefly team.
Yes,
like,
please. Thank you.
I'll send them this live.
Yes. So then from here, you can see I kind of chopped away some of the clouds. It's not that like the square one wouldn't work, but I just don't want it to overthink, and I just wanted like a better blend. And then see how this one isn't coming out, and I think it just maybe I deleted a layer. Sorry.
So you kind of cut out stuff that you don't want the
Yeah,
AI
so
to work to kind of grow from, right? Because you're going to use the generative expand. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people do miss. Like it is quite useful, because otherwise you can drag something down like, oh, why does it keep making this cliff? Because there's like a little cliff in the corner or something. Yeah.
Because it needs a bit of information for it to expand. So whatever that edge is, it'll kind of grab a bit of it. Like for example, this one, it's given it legs because it's like, oh, maybe that's the bottom of the body, which is fine. And like, if that's what I wanted, maybe I'd continue with this and change this to the leg and give it more specific prompt. And what I find is the generative fill in Photoshop doesn't come out as high quality in terms of the details compared to Firefly, because it's trying to take in all the information on your canvas, and sometimes it'll actually confuse it. And then with the work that I do, some of the collaging that I do with my physical paintings and digital exports, I have like so many layers that it starts spitting out things that it's like some texture, some realistic bits, whereas sometimes I just want it to be realistic, or sometimes I just want it to be texture. So I'm really using Photoshop to kind of just use the two to blend the mediums together versus using it as a direct creation tool. And so for the water bit, I'm just thinking about, once I put the body there, which part of the water I'm actually going to keep and I'm going to look more realistic. So this one, I really like the colors and it's like painterly, but that's not what I'm going for.
I was going to say painterly as well.
Yeah, and then over here, if I have the body here, this bit might look a bit random. So I kept this one because it's got the soft glow. And then I was like, oh, this bit looks really harsh from my cutout. So then I blended it a bit more.
And how do you go about blending it? When you say you blended it, how would you go about that?
So I literally just select like this bit. So example before. Yeah, so maybe this bit, it's like, oh, maybe it doesn't look that nice. And I'll just press generative fill. I normally just do an empty prompt and then I'll generate until I find something nice. Because I find if I give it too much detail, because with generative AI, it'll grab onto that word, and then that word is associated with something that's the most obvious. So if I say blend, it won't know what blend means. But if you leave it blank, they're like, oh, maybe this is what she wants. So my suggestion is just leave it blank. And if it really doesn't work, then try changing it. Sometimes if I'm blending quickly just to get a base background color or like a gradient at the back, I can select lots of it. But once it starts going, once I get into the detail, I do smaller sections. So I have a bit more control.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think this bit I was like, oh, maybe it's too dark, so I just changed it. And then this bit is where I got really lazy. I was like, I can't get the body, I'm just going to crop it. So this bit is pretty much, I just cropped out this bit and then I moved a copy of it and copy paste. I was like, yeah, this is roughly where I want the body. And then I did it another time to connect it. So I get this like wavy body. It's like a cheat code. So like, this is the composition I want. And then to get the edges, I literally just, like what I mentioned before, like I'll select these bits. I think initially I selected this bit, for example, to blend, press generate, and I did it two sides at the same time, and it was too much. Like it was like, what is this thing? Like, I couldn't recognize what it was, and it just became a blur. So then I just do it more slowly, and then I start getting like these type of details.
And that's without putting anything in the prompt. That's just letting the AI kind of figure out what the image is and what you might want.
I think this one, these are the outputs that I got rid of. And I was like, oh, this lighting doesn't match. So in here you can see all the prompts are left blank. But then I was like, oh, these are the nicer
Yeah.
exports. And then this one you can see on this other side. I was like, I don't really want that weird island bit because it doesn't match the other side. So let's get rid of that. So I selected a bit more than I normally would. And then from here you can kind of see the other. I was like, which one gave me the cleaner city? Because that's the focus
Right.
I was after. Yeah. And then this is the tummy bit. I was like, let's get rid of this crack.
I like that you label your layers, and I like tummy.
They're
two.
normally layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. So I was like, oh, this is going on live. People will judge me.
Oh, you tidied it up just for us.
I tidied it up, yes. Too embarrassed to show you what my normal desk looks like.
That's great.
Yeah, so this is a fun bit. With the sky, I really wanted to have the moon because of the lunar calendar. And when I typed moon, so I think in this prompt, it has like black night sky with full moon peeking through. And I got this, and I was like, it's really harsh.
Right.
I think I started off with night sky. You got some stars. I was like, oh, sorry. Whoa, where's my mouse?
It's back.
Okay. It's back. And then got like little moon in this variation, but I thought it was a bit too bright for what I wanted to be, kind of like almost like when the sun sets, you get some sun and the moon shining through. So I wanted that contrast. And then I got this. I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. This is like the Photoshop kind of trying to work out what type of image this is, and I'm not quite sure. I'm giving you a mix. So what I ended up doing was I just wanted to blend the sky a bit better. So I kind of start typing black sky with, I think, clouds or something. And then it started blending it a bit nicer. And I was like, oh, this one's a bit better. At least it's a smoother gradient. I'll use that as a base. And then I went into Firefly and just got like a, moon cityscape image. That's a photo-based one to get this image. And I was like, I'll just crop this out with just the moon to this.
And I think, do you find that jumping into Firefly, like on the website, you tend to get like a high quality result at the moment? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if Photoshop is still using version 1 or is it using version 2 now?
I'm like 90% sure that that's the case. I'm pretty sure the Firefly in the web. So a bit of a pro tip for anyone out there. Functionality exists within Photoshop, but yes, I think both of us are like pretty sure that it's.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But surprisingly, I had like, there's a couple of prompts that I use that I go back to version 1 for.
Oh, interesting. Right.
Because I like the way it looks.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's like the more abstract-y, flowy type of stuff that I like, with like this specific building texture that I like. Yeah, it comes down to like hundreds of exports. Like, I still like this one. So I remember the version and the prompt for that, so I can go back and use it. I might share what it looks like, actually. And then again, I'll select, whoops. How do I put this? Not very good at Photoshop, if you can't tell. Yeah, so I'll select the edges. Like if I want to get rid of the, I don't know what these things are called, the dragon fluff bits, I can remove them first, or if I wanted to blend, I can select them. But if it's not really working, you can just do like a clean edge around here first, just to get it to blend together, and then you can do it bit by bit, or you can do it all together, see what it looks like. So I think these are my variations. Yeah, once I put the moon in, that's a bit I want to keep, so it's not going to change any of it. And then it's really just deciding which type of sky I liked. Can't remember which one I picked. Was it this one? And then now you've got like a semi-realistic moon in a position that you want, with like a rough blend of the night sky that I liked. So it's transitioning a lot nicer than the first export where I just had, typing in nighttime prompt with, the moon, for example. Yeah. And then that's pretty much it. I think I expanded it just to kind of show what it could look like. So this one's just with generative expand. I wanted to see what it could look like. going out a bit further.
It's gone a bit crazy there, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But I just want to like see what it thinks the rest of the body looks like. Sometimes for fun. Yeah, yeah. And then just keep adjusting. I tried to export like the AI Firefly text ones.
Oh yeah, the text to
the Happy New Year in Chinese, and I was like, oh, it was supposed to be balloons, and I had an initial animation for it to kind of fly up like a celebration thing, and I showed my husband, and he's like, it looks like a cheap PowerPoint. I was like, oh, it does look a bit tacky.
Oh, right.
So then I was like, okay, I'll handwrite it. So that's where the calligraphy came into place. Actually, let me see if I've got the... So this is the...
How did Firefly do with the translation? Like, was it legible? Did it make sense? Did you have to tweak it when you did
No, I typed in the Chinese words.
Oh, so you just typed it in yourself. Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it'll come up the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where I found out that you can do timeline-based.
I love this. I love that you're discovering Photoshop.
Yeah.
Timeline. It's so
How
cool.
do I make this big again? Do I just drag it in? It's better. Yeah, like, so this frame by frame thing took so long. I didn't realize how many times I'd have to write these words. It felt like
frame by frame animation.
I felt like back at school and had to like practice writing Chinese, but just to get this animation on the thing, it's pretty fun. And the cool thing was I also found a way to do like a cheat code animation by expanding the sky by using the perspectives. So then it can move from left to right if I use a transition in the timeline. I don't know if that makes sense.
Not sure what you mean. You mean stretching it out even further than you would need so that you can...
Let me show you the
ready.
Last bit of this animation. Is it this one? This one. I think at the end it's got... Sorry, now you have to watch all of this from the start. But at the end where the dragon moves, the sky and the clouds are moving, and then the water at the bottom is also moving. And I just did that in Photoshop because I expanded the sky. Like I cut out the sky and I cut out the water. And then in the perspective mode, you stretch it out of the screen and then you can get it to move from left to right. So then it like this... Did you see that?
I saw that. It was quick, but I saw it.
It was great. Yeah, so like just to play around with the animation function, because that's what I just discovered you could do that.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, that's it.
That's cool. And so did you just have to kind of teach yourself the animation in the timeline? You watch a tutorial?
Yeah, so I think so I think when I first started motion graphics, I was learning animation from scratch, and I really liked how like animations can continuously loop. Yeah. And I think when I found out you could get the timeline thing on Photoshop, as you can see, I was like learning. I was like, oh, you can do like frame by frame animation, and I was like, oh, I wonder if you can do timestamp, because I've used After Effects a couple of times, but it's a lot more full on to use. Whereas this one, I was like, oh, let's see if it looks realistic. And I just tried this thing that I saw on TikTok. I was like, oh, it really works. So I might use it again for something else.
That's awesome. I do love animating in Photoshop. It's one of those things where it's quite simple and rudimentary in the way that it works, because it actually has been in Photoshop for
I feel like there's so many functions that I haven't even discovered.
Photoshop's
actually terrible.
Crazy like that. Photoshop's been around forever, so it's so much happening under the hood with Photoshop. I do love the timeline. So I have a couple of questions. Alejandro was saying the orange color of the dragon with the dark blue of the clouds is wonderful. Do you use an image reference to select that striking color harmony?
No, I think I'm very low-fi when it comes to making decisions. I think it probably comes down to how I paint, and it's always by intuition. Like when I'm painting physical artworks, like with this one, I just like put on the paint, and if I like it, I continue. If I don't, I change. And I think similar for this, because I started with a color palette that I knew I loved, like with the magentas and the oranges. I was like, oh, like a nice contrasting color with, like, I think initially I really wanted something sky blue, but then I wanted the moon in there. So like what's a nice transition. So I'd pick something that's slightly blue that moves towards black that kind of can blend nicely with some of the water reflections. That's probably as much as my decision making as it wasn't like if you asked me what type of dragon artwork I was making before I created this for the session, I would have said I have no idea. Like it could have ended up with that caterpillar thing.
Right. Yeah. No, and I
Yeah.
like that. I think it's a really great approach, like not trying to sort of approach something with the end goal in mind, but trying to treat it like a bit of an organic process, which is quite interesting because that's kind of your approach to, from what I understand, your approach to your other artwork as well. It's like an organic, you know, sort of, I guess you find out what it's going to look like at the end. Like it's purposeful. I'm not, you know, saying that there's no intention, but that idea of letting the flow kind of take you where it naturally might go. That's my understanding of what you were saying before.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's probably at the stage where I start getting the exports that I'm like, oh, this is like getting close to what I want to use. And then from there, that's when I start thinking about the composition, and which is why I'm started to think about like the portrait or the landscape mode, depending on what I'm going to use it for. And then like the long body, I started thinking about, because that's the dragon I wanted to focus on. And then the background, because it's secondary to what I'm creating, came after. And then it was just around matching and what kind of looked good.
That's awesome. Well, I love that. And James Barnard in chat says, Joy is the layer mayor. And ever since you typed it, it's been really difficult in my brain to try to say out loud. Leia Mare. It's really weird.
Nice. Oh, this is my normal. Look, it's like 6, 5,
There's
4,
the
7.
layers.
It's not even in
That's
order.
Everybody does that. Everybody does that. Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you. Unless there's more, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really great seeing this, and there's a couple of tips in there that I didn't know about. Always got to get back into Firefly and try out some of the those longer kind of you know, very descriptive kind of things. I often keep it quite short, but I think I need to drill down a little bit deeper.
Yeah. No, you know what everyone should try when you get home and when you like get time to play? Like put in the lyrics of your favorite song just to see what it looks like as an artwork. And then you put in the effects of like stuff that you like. Like I love glowy stuff, so I'm going to put like bioluminescence. I like 3D, I'm going to chuck that in. Some of my favorite ones I always default to is probably, there's like one, let me see if I can find, the mouse. I think in Firefly, under themes, no, photo manipulation. I think this one just kind of blends things nicely if you're kind of going for something not realistic, something like lots of different things mashed up together. It just kind of fits it nicely. I use splattering and paint splattering because it gives the effect of a lot of the artworks that I create to kind of give that consistency in what I do. So I think it's until you start playing that you find what you like and what you gravitate to. So start mixing the effects, start mixing the stuff that you like. But also one of the tips I forgot to share is in couple of the dragons I exported, I used my own image of the fluid stuff that I got as a Firefly export, and I put it back into Firefly as an image reference to get that consistency in the style with a different character. So that's another tip. So if you've got something that you love in terms of a color, so these are my favorites that I've done recently that I've favorited. Like I'll use something. So these two, you can see they're using very similar palettes because I used the same image prompt that I got, which was, and these as well. That's why they have consistency in the color. And it was, which one? These ones.
Yeah, these are amazing.
So it's high. Oh, these are all the dragons that I played around with that I thought was worthy. But yeah, these are some of my other artworks. Well, people is something I'm trying to work on. But yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Another tip.
Excellent. All right, then we'll follow Joy on Instagram and check it out. We've got her details down the bottom. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Joy, for joining us today. Thank you so much for coming on Adobe Live.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun.
All right. Well, you have a great time at ceramics because I know you're going straight to ceramics right after this. So it's a big crafty kind of day. Have a fantastic afternoon, and we'll see all of you on the next Adobe Live. Thanks again, Joy.
Bye. Bye.